Hey everyone, welcome. Just gonna do a quick mic check, see how this is working. All right, I think it's working okay. Alrighty, how's everyone doing today? I just started the stream and I was a couple minutes late as well. Um, yeah, just fiddling around with some stuff, trying to get the stream, trying to improve things on the stream, but I don't have time for anything right now, so yeah. All right, I will be on screen in just a minute. Get the cameras up and rolling. Um, yeah, as soon as I find my panel that I'm going to paint on, kind of important, kind of need that. Here we go. Okay. Um, Here we are. I need to figure a solution out for these panels. I'll show you in a minute. So I made this little, actually, I think I have a solution. Just thought about it. I think I do have one. Let's see if this works. All right, let me switch cameras so we can all. Nope, wrong camera. There we go. Hey, everyone. All right, so my issue is that when I put a panel here, um, this shadow that, oh, hey, Des, there you are. Yeah, there I am. I did a new overlay, but I think it might be a little too busy. I might have to remove it and try again another time with it. Um, it's just a basic thing, but yeah. My camera, that's what I was going to fix. Filter 3D. Why is it over? Hey, is it just this? I just need to do this. That fix it? That kind of fixed it, yeah. LSD is kicking in. Yeah, I tried to do a new overlay, but I feel like it's a little too fast. Um, which I thought I could what's it called? I thought I could slow it down, but I can't. So I think I will turn it off in just a minute. I'll leave it on for a minute or two just for the fun of it, but I'll probably turn it off. So I'm running into this problem where this wood that's here for my easel is making this shadow over here. Let me zoom out a little. Nope, that's zooming in. There we go. Uh, and I hate that. So it only does that with thin panels. So I think I'm going to try. I know this is very complex. I'm just going to double up on the panels and see if that fixes the problem. Uh, remember to always go for the most complicated solution if possible. This little easel attachment was a really quick thing I put together. I actually need to rebuild it and build one that's better, but I'll wait. I'll keep for a while. This will work for a long time, and I have other priorities at the moment that I need to focus on. So, you know, yeah. How's everyone doing, by the way? I asked earlier, but I think it was before everyone got in. So, how are you all doing today? I didn't even draw my center point lines. I usually do that, but I didn't even bother doing that today. Probably should have, but oh well. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Uh, so the experiment today is I have, I have, I was going to say two paintings. I actually have more than two paintings that I haven't finished, but we'll just say two paintings that I'm currently working on, actively that I haven't finished. And I probably should be working on them, but I am so tired of working on them. And the reason I haven't finished them is um, not because I'm like determined to make them absolutely super perfect or anything like that. I work on them for about 2 hours on stream. Often I mess something up during stream because my attention is a little, fragmented as I'm streaming, which is, expected. It's not, I do, I know that. Um, and sometimes it's also hard to just get into a painting and not mess something up, right? If you walk away from it for a day. But that's what happens. I work on it for like 2 hours and then I leave it for 3 days and then I come back and try and work on it again for 2 hours. And I just cannot get these paintings done that way, especially since they're like right at the end and I just need to spend like a couple hours really focused on just bringing the finish home kind of thing. I can show you on this one, I redid his nose and it's not finished. The nose needs its highlights, but it's actually, I'm really happy with the base for the nose right now, but I'm just so tired of working on it. So yeah, so we'll see if my paint is fresh or not anymore. Probably not. We'll see. And then I am trying to launch my commissions, which I'm my commission page and that stuff. I'm just trying to get it all set up and you know fix the page on the website and do all the stuff and make the Instagram posts so that I can actually get people to come to it and see it and all of that. So just not had the time. Uh, you need some time where your head would be in the way while painting LOL. Yes, that's a big part of it too. Yes. Sometime for the end, at the end when I'm finishing up a painting, there's definitely some time where I need to spend right here. And it's not a good place to paint on stream, but absolutely. There's no getting around that. You're absolutely right about that. After stream today, I'll be doing um I don't know, we'll see. I debated hopping onto Discord to like it'll be late. I realize that, so I don't know. But I thought about just hanging out in Discord while uh I'm working on a book cover design, small freelance gig I got for an independent writer. So I need to sketch up concepts for her and send those out. I almost didn't stream because I have to do that, but I figured not in a super rush, so I probably should stream and then I'll do that. And my paint on my palette is dry because literally the last time I painted was Sunday. So today, the experiment is I am going to try and take um oh, sorry, one second. I'm going to try and take a photo of a person and use that as the base and to try and help me kind of paint more realistic. Uh, and I'm going to try and paint them as a VTuber model for a particular um, VTuber who does art related stuff. She's not a very big VTuber, but comparatively, but she's an artist and she does videos about AI art a lot of times and stuff like that, which I appreciate. So I thought it would be fun to try and do this. I'm tired of painting those other paintings. Let's try something a little different, see how it goes. Um, let's see. Sandra says, it's important to really get down to the wire. It's the only way to get things done. No, yeah, that too. I, gotta love the ADHD. Um, I mean, it's not just the ADHD in this case. I've just got, it just feels like too many things kind of pulling at me in different directions, which is like, probably my ADHD making it harder for me to deal with that. But yeah, it really is like I have too many things that I need to do all pulling at me in different directions. Well, not different directions, but it's just they're all different. I don't know, and they all take time and I can't figure out there's not a clear winner as to which one is more important and which one needs to be done first. Cassandra says, I hate that. Prioritizing is the worst. It is. The problem is that I don't know how to prioritize this because there is nothing, there is nothing that like is clear, like, oh, this is the thing that I have to focus on right now. Because if I focus on this, I will get the results that I want, right? Or I will get the outcomes that I want. None of it is that clear, except for now the job, but the freelance, the freelance job. But I'm not I'm not like late behind or tardy yet with that. So that is well within the like reasonable state, I think at the moment. But everything else is just like I don't know what is the priority. And I'm trying to figure that out, trying to do it, be good about doing everything, but it is difficult. All right. This might come as a shocker, but I have some oil on my glove. So one second, I'm gonna clean that off. This says I'm slacking. I did get some reference photos today for a project I want to work on. That's good. I I did apply for the local uh, art fair, the Blue Bazaar or something like that in Austin. Hopefully, hopefully they accept me. It's one of those things where obviously I hope they accept me. I won't. It'll suck if they don't, but I also would understand if they didn't, in the sense of like they seem to go after um a certain type and relevancy and stuff like that, and notoriety. So we'll see. Blue Genie, yes, the Blue Genie Bizarre. What, I can't remember what it's called. Something like that. Yeah. So we'll see. All right. Today, okay, before I start, should I take the overlay off or leave it on? Do you like it, or is it just annoying? It's okay. You didn't notice it till Angela brought it up. Okay. Actually, you know what? Let me check something real quick. I want to see if I just stop it. All right. Not that it's a huge difference because, you know, um, but my CPU usage goes from 2.5% to 5.5% when I'm using the overlay for, what's it called? Um, for OBS. Like I said, that's not a lot, so it's not a big deal, but I think I will leave it off, just in case it is also eating up RAM and I can't tell. But I will create some nicer overlays at some point. I'm working on it. There, there's something weird with the overlays and I haven't figured out. I followed the instructions. I make the overlays and then the alpha channel doesn't come through for some reason. So I have to actually color key out the black, which makes no sense to me. I don't know why it's doing that, but you know, whatever. Okay, let's start and we'll see how this goes. So one of the things too, for today is because I've been so tired of the paintings that I'm working on right now. Um, what's it called? I'm going to try and get this done real fast. And if it's not perfectly finished, whatever, that's at least the approach. We'll see if I can actually approach it that way, because I have a tendency of, um, I don't want to say perfectionism, because I don't like to think of myself as a perfectionist anymore, but for a lack of a better word, we'll say perfectionism. And I am going to go in with a pencil to start today, just because it might be easier to lay it out. I'm Cassandra says you're not a perfectionist, you're just very particular. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I was watching a video by Chelsea Lang, and she was talking about perfectionism and the strive. I think she referred to it as like the strive for excellence or something like that. I can't remember the exact terminology she used. And her thing was she was saying that perfectionism is uh something that is like based in fear of like criticism or something, which I can kind of understand. I don't know that I fully am on board with that definition, but that doesn't really matter. Sandra says, I think that's better. Oh, me being very particular? Yeah, sure. That's better. But I don't know if I totally agree with Chelsea on that, but it's I'll say my dis if I don't agree, it's not a very strong disagreement. It's just kind of like maybe not entirely or not always or whatever. Not it's not that important is basically what I'm trying to get to. But I do think there is a difference when in painting or in making art between like perfectionism, as in you want it to be perfect, or between perfectionism, like it has to be perfect, and a kind of perfectionism where you're like, I know I can make it better. I know how to make it better. I know what I need to do. I just didn't have the time, or I messed it up and I need to go back and spend the extra time to do it, or whatever it is. I think that having that knowledge and, you know, that clarity makes it a little different than just perfectionism for the sake of like perfectionism. It's kind of like, okay, it's not perfectionism, it's just it isn't actually finished because I have yet to do these things that I know or I intended to do or I plan to do or is what I expect of my art kind of thing. Like I don't know if that makes sense, but it's like, if I did a portrait and I didn't draw in or paint in one of the eyes and that wasn't intentional, the portrait's not going to be finished until I go back in and actually do the, second eye, right? Like it's just not a finished portrait until then. And don't get me wrong, I've abandoned plenty of art pieces without finishing them. But yeah. Yeah, you want to meet your standards. Yeah, I do agree with that, but it is a different thing than like, oh, it has to be perfect, Like I just feel like there's just something a little different there. But I can see how those two can be very close to each other, and if you take it too far, you can easily turn one into the other. I could see that. So you aren't trying to protect yourself. Yeah. Yeah, I could, yes, I agree with that statement too. I'm gonna actually do some measuring today. See how that goes. When I draw from a live model, by the way, I do a ton more measuring. In case anyone isn't clear on that or thinks I always paint or draw this way. When I'm working from a live model, I do a lot more measuring because I don't have I can't use my Photoshop trick the same way. And so you just have to do a lot more manual measuring, uh, you know, and comparison to the model. Just thought I'd mention that in case people thought otherwise, because they see me always approach things a certain way. Probably could have started this straight with paint, but because it's something new, taking a minute to kind of compose the drawing and compose myself, it felt more natural. Also because it's a blend of realism and invented, and I'm way more comfortable doing invented art, you know, with pencils or pens or digital, because I draw, when doing storyboards and everything like that, or comic book type art or whatever it is, I draw a lot from imagination. It's way more comfortable for me to use those tools. It's just it's not just more comfortable, it's just more familiar, you know? And sometimes the familiarity, even though it doesn't actually affect anything, can affect our own perception, which can make it feel harder, easier, or whatever. Man, I'd love to do some work with a model. It's been so long and I do love it. Well, there are a few places I can recommend in Austin that do live model sessions, where they do long poses for like 3 hours with breaks, obviously. Um, if that is something you're interested in. And it's only like, I can't remember the prices. I think it's like $10 or $15 for a session, which is not bad at all, price wise. It does mean that you have to go drive somewhere though and interface with the general public. Cassandra says 3 hours sounds luxurious. Well, it's not, because it's 3 hours um, in 20 to 20, 25 to 20 minute increments. Um, and it is remarkable just how fast that time just vanishes. Don't call me out like that. I wasn't calling you out like that. Just a general note. It could apply to you or anybody. Me too. Trust me, there's a reason I haven't gone to some of these things as much. Like the one of them is at the Atelier Dojo. Um, uh-huh, uh-huh, you say? Okay. Well, at the Atelier Dojo in Austin. Um, and I love that place. I love that school. I like a lot of the people who work there. I'm friends with some of the people who work there. Um, I even got anyways, but it's so far away for me that I almost never go, because it's just like, oh God, I gotta drive all the way out there for this. Although now that I have my painting set up, my that I can with the what's it called? The oh my God, the wet carrier box. I'm probably going to go. Well, I'm more likely to go. We'll put it that way. Like I said, this is a VTuber model, so it's not gonna be the normal, like the normal drawing. It's a fantasy character, uh, which you're about to see in a minute, because she has like giant elf ears. But at least, unlike some VTuber models, she's not super lewd, which I don't really have an issue with, but I don't know that it goes with necessarily with my channel as much. Um, but yeah. Like I said, she covers I don't know if she's American, but she's English. I'm pretty sure she's American, but she covers uh stuff relating to AI a lot, which I appreciate. Um, so stuff relating to AI art and so on. So, and she recently did a video where she called out some artists who clearly use AI for their references and stuff. And I thought it'd be fun to try and combine, painting from a photo reference of a model and combine that with her design model, you know? Only thing is that some of my, or not some of it, I rushed a lot of this setup, so, we'll see how it goes. For anyone who does do measuring from a, it does a technique of measuring like with your thumb and everything. There are people who have like very specific, like you have to hold it this way, you have to do this. And some of that is really good advice, some of it's just annoying. But one thing that really is true is you have to take in consideration that when you're lowering your hand, it's farther away from your eye and the angles, if you don't shift the pencil angle as you lower it, your hand turns, which just changes the perspective. Um, so you have to take those things in consideration. Years ago, I tried to do a oil painting completely from imagination, and I really hit a wall. Like I could not do it at all. And it was like it was just a fictional character, something that I generally could draw no problem. When I tried to take that into oil painting, could not do it at the time at all. Hey Aaron, good to see you, man. How you doing? How are you doing? Been a while. Hey yo, hey man, good to see you. Okay, I'm good. Glad to finally catch you in one of your streams. Hey, thanks. Good to see you. I know Aaron. We used to work together when I lived in LA. So yeah, it's been a minute. I haven't, by the way, I haven't forgotten about the painting we talked about. I was actually thinking about that recently. I need to get back to you about that. How am I? I am stressed. I have too many things on my plate trying all like pulling me in different directions. Yeah. How about you? How have you been? All right. Hey, Des, by the way, are you a mod on any of my streams? I can't remember. Busy man, but no complaints here. Oh, I'm glad to hear that. Did you get affected by the bad storms in Texas? Not really. Okay, Des is not a mod on Twitch, but she is here. All right. I mean, we had like a bunch of them, but nothing that like it was just like crazy weather that was it was like it would be, everything's fine and then suddenly we have storms and then suddenly this and so, but nothing major happened. It was just kind of like crazy weather. You know what I mean? So luckily, yeah, that's it. Kept meaning to call. Yeah, no worries. It's so hard to keep track of everybody. You know, I tried to call all my friends in LA when the fires were happening and all the different, and then when the riots were happening too for the people who thought would be affected. But I, I know too many people there. I know I was just too, I know I missed people. You know what I mean? So like I try, but yeah, I totally get it. And now there's that tsunami warning, although it sounds like it's not that bad in you know, at least in America. Des says I was checking in with him every day. Yeah, Des was. Des was checking in. Not only was Des checking in on me, I'll be honest, Des was half the time informing me because a lot of times I wouldn't even know that anything is happening or going to happen, and Des would kind of let me know, and I'd be like, "Oh, that's really good to know. I guess I should prepare for that. Thank you." But yeah, yeah, yeah. Usually I feel like I rely on my you know, on my phone and stuff like that to kind of warn me about very bad weather, but Des was doing a far better job than any weather service or anything, honestly. We did have, I think we had hail a couple of times and stuff like that. So, all that type of information is very helpful because it would be like, I'd have to make sure to put the car in and stuff like that so we don't get any hail damage because that sucks when that happens. And I am speaking from experience. I didn't actually check in with you, Aaron. Were you rioting in the streets during the LA riots? I assumed you wouldn't be, but you know, feel free to confess to crimes here on live stream if you want. Don't do that, please, but if you want. Did I get any dents in your noggin? LOL. No, my head's far sturdier than our car. It's really the car that I'm worried about getting dents. My head's fine, whatever. A few pieces of hail aren't going to do anything. Uh, Aaron says, me too busy decorating toys to be rioting. Yeah, I know. I actually had this is a true story when me and my mom moved from LA when I was younger. We were walking down the block in our new neighborhood, and tiles like they're not like bathroom tiles, but I'm using the like bathroom tiles, so you know what they look like tiles like that were on the third floor of the building we were under. It was a apartment building, and they had tiles stuck to the outside of the building for decoration. They just started falling and coming off, and fell straight on my head. This is when I was like 12, something like that. Yeah. So yeah. Steve and Jimbo say hi, by the way. Oh, nice. Say hi for me too. I need to reach out to them and see, connect directly. I suck at that. Sandra says that explains so much. Yeah, yeah. Fair enough. I've also been in an exceptional amount of car accidents, most of them very minor, but um, I think still more than the average person. Most of them, like I said, very minor. Only one of them was, I only got injured in one of them. All the rest were, you know, no injuries on my end, but yeah. Trying to think because I have a differentiation between the accident I was in and the accidents my car was in. Because my car was in even more accidents than I was. Not that I have that car anymore, but you know, uh, in general. Same thing happened to my pop's house. It was a foot long chunk of marble sheet, but luckily it missed me. Would have been probably cracked open had it hit me. Oh, yeah, that sounds a lot more serious. No, mine was a small piece, but it did hit me directly on the back of the head, which was very, very unpleasant. You know, it also hit my mom, but for my mom, it just cut her. And so even though it appeared to be worse, it was actually a lot less worse for her. Um, but yeah, luckily it wasn't that bad either way, relatively speaking. Could have been a lot worse. So these colors are so, because it's based off of VTuber, the colors are very, very strong and, um, you know, oversaturated and everything. And right now, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to lay in uh, I'm trying to lay the colors in. I'm trying to lay in like the shadows right now. I realize these aren't very like dark shadows, but like I said, it's a VTuber model, so they're like they're not very, they don't go very dark generally speaking, or the contrast isn't that strong. But I'm trying to lay in some of the shadows so that I can help bring out the 3D effect more, because that I think that is going to be one of the challenges of trying to combine a 2D character and a 3D, 3D character. But I do want to go in and um, add more complexity to this as I go. Like I'm not, ideally, this wouldn't be just like a simple, like two color process or three. Like I don't want it to be just like I painted a VTuber model, but in oils, but like with the same, you know, color complexity that I would have if I'd done it, you know, um, in Illustrator. Like I don't want that. I want to bring uh, the color complexities that oil tends to have to this. So that is the goal. And we'll see how that goes. But that is definitely part of this. That's one of the things that I think oil paints excel at is there's just something about how oil paint handles color, or how color is represented in oil paints, that I feel like is I want to say superior than all other paints, um, but it's really one of its strengths, that's for sure. Watercolors can do some really fascinating stuff with color and different mixtures and how the pigments disperse. I think that's always interesting. And acrylics have the capability, um, I think, to match oils a lot of times. I feel like it might be a little harder for, we'll call it, traditional acrylics or normal acrylics. Um, but because it dries so fast, I think, and also because when it when it dries, there isn't a lot of luminosity in the paint film the way that there is with oil paints. So when you combine those two things, I feel like it suffers. But if you augment one of those things, I feel like you can definitely get it because I've seen there's beautiful paintings out there, and um, you know Cassandra does um, does paintings that in acrylic that I don't feel like are super, like I wouldn't distinguish them between, or I'd find it very hard to distinguish them from oil paints because of how the paint dries and everything. It's not exactly the same, especially the volume of the paint. That's one thing I noticed. It's much flatter, but that doesn't affect the colors as much. There's less texture, which I suppose can affect color, but I, it wasn't something that jumped out when I looked at our paintings. So the fact that like I couldn't tell, means that it's not a huge factor. Yeah, I've tried mixing it with heavy bodies recently. It's interesting. Don't know if I like it. Uh, yeah, I, you know, I'm not a huge fan of acrylics. The Golden Open are like when I tried them, it's one of those things where it's like to me they're tolerable. Um, However, uh, you know, I've used other oils and I hate them. Go ahead and say it, you want to. Oh wait, makes the paint feel a little weird. Go ahead and say it. I mean, I'm just saying, like, just paint in oils. You might as well. But no, I mean that's really the only thing. I don't. I've painted with like heavy body acrylics. Um, I didn't like them. But no, I'll be honest. Like I don't remember what your answer was. Maybe you had a good answer, but I don't understand. I don't understand why most people don't paint in oils versus acrylics. Um, you know, it weirdly made your paint stringy. I could imagine that. I've painted when I used acrylics, I once added, not once, but I've in the past I've added what's it called to it? A retarder to it, which just made it more transparent and watery and dries slow, which was really annoying because you want, like, the reason you add retarder to the paint is to make it dry slower. But because the retarder made the paint so translucent, I actually needed it then to dry faster because I couldn't put down solid color. I could only glaze, and I needed to put down heavier, heavier or more solid colors. So it was an interesting dilemma where the retarder did its job, but its unintended job actually made me not need it or need it, I don't know. It was just like, okay, this is doing the thing, but now it's also ruining the process and I need something else now. Cassandra says, yeah, I was specifically trying to add more opacity to my whites. Yeah, yeah, that was one of the things with your paints that they did seem a little on the, you know, translucent side, which don't get me wrong, you can get that in oils as well, just depends on the pigments, but uh, Golden Open seems, uh, because Golden Open is more locked down or more limited in the paints that you have access to, uh, that's kind of the issue with them, or one of the issues with them. They definitely are. Yeah. One thing, I'll be honest, one thing I don't like about like Golden Open, and this is something that I don't like about not just Golden Open, this is any brand that does something. It's a paradox. I'll explain. Any brand that does something super unique like Golden Open, I have an issue with because um I think it's good that a brand does that. However, I hate to be locked in with a particular brand. I definitely have my preferences with certain brands, but there's a huge, huge difference between having preferences and being locked in with with a particular brand um, of paint. And excuse me for a second. I definitely hate being locked into one brand. Um, and this is not just for paint, right? Like I hate that anytime with anything. So, whether it's computers, cars, like anything, if you have to be locked in on something, I don't like it. Okay. I need to stop my recording so my camera doesn't overheat and give it a minute. At the moment, I actually like that I have fewer choices. I don't get overwhelmed by choices and I'm not wasting money trying stuff and having it not work. That's fair, and I understand that in theory, My yeah, I understand that. You know, I, you know me, my palette's super limited, so but every once in a while I do go out and buy, like try and buy a paint that I don't have and so on. But yeah, overall, I get that. I I honestly think everyone who paints should start out with limited palettes. I don't understand why people don't paint with a limited palette. I don't understand the theory behind it. Um, it just doesn't, none of it makes sense to me. I understand why people use expanded palettes eventually. Like, I do understand the theory behind it. I understand why people do it. I just um yeah, I don't know. It doesn't I don't understand. I would never teach someone that way. And I'll be honest, even expanded palettes, most of the time they aren't like I don't think I would find them beneficial, honestly. Convenience colors, I understand, and I do understand that sometimes there are colors that just kind of like it's interesting where um sorry, I need to do something on the computer real quick, but I'm still here. I think where people are very interesting. Sometimes you can have a color that just kind of speaks to you in a certain way, and that um without it, like it's harder to paint, or with it it's easier to paint, or that there's just something about that particular color that makes that like you find inspiring or something like that. Like our brains are really weird that way. So I do understand that, but I don't know. I would really have a hard time like if I added, an expanded palette is something like, my palette is technically 5 colors. An expanded palette would be like 12 or something, like a truly expanded palette. Um, or a split primary, which would be, you know, two, um, be, would be 8, uh, minimum for a split primary. Yeah, I don't know. I would have a hard time with that. What is happening here? Sorry, I'm doing so that is weird. Um, okay. Okay. Sorry, having issues with my computer for some reason. Okay, there we go. Apparently, it was user error. But yeah, no, the expanded palettes. I don't I don't understand them most of the time. Like when I had to use colors that I couldn't mix with my current palette, um, I would add to my palette and use them occasionally, but most of the time they just sat there and didn't do anything. I think convenience colors make sense, especially when you're limited on time, like plein air painting, or you know, if you're gonna, I don't know, if you're gonna paint something with very subdued colors, using my palette doesn't make your life any easier, you know. It definitely just makes life harder and takes more time. So I understand just deciding to, not use my palette. Like I get that. Um, But, you don't have to use this particular limited palette. I don't understand the people who don't mix colors. Like that's just a concept that is like lost on me. I can't understand that. Uh, how do you not mix colors? What does that even mean? Okay. All right. Some things are off a little in placement, but not horribly, just a little. It's mostly in the face. I am. I'm gonna have to put out some more quinacridone rose though, because this one's done. I will say this for anyone who is looking to get into painting or oil painting specifically. Um, I mean, there's a lot to like. The hurdle of getting into it is kind of steep, but it's not nearly as large as you probably think. But one thing that I will say is that don't buy the cheapest paints out there. Don't do that to yourself. It's not gonna be good. Um, yeah, that's probably not the only recommendation I can give, but definitely one that I would stand by. I understand paints can be expensive, especially when you first start out. I don't think they're that expensive. Well, okay, let me rephrase that. I get it that paints are expensive. I think that the price, like, there are ways to, you know, to adjust the price to buy cheaper paints that are still really good and they last probably longer than you think they do. If you're new, well, if you're experienced, they last longer than you probably think they will. But when you're new, yeah, they don't last as long. But oh my God, the cheap paints, like the super, super cheap paints are just, it's just not worth it. And I'm not saying you have to buy the best, but just don't buy the cheapest. But yeah, some student grade paints are not horrible, you know. They're not they're not as good as the professional ones, you know, like that's just the truth of the matter for most. I'm sure there are some, I will say this, my understanding is there are some colors that the brand, not the brand, but the like the quality between like student and professional aren't as like there are specific colors where the difference between them is not nearly as large as other colors. And if you ask me what those colors are, I cannot answer that because I have not done extensive testing. I've just heard that from some artists who will buy like professional grade paints for most, and then they'll like, for their like ultramarine blue or something, they'll just buy like student grade or something. So that exists. There are like people who talk about that, and there are ways of doing that. And actually, I know a bunch of artists who, when they do very large paintings, they do something similar. They buy student grade paints and they lay in the painting with the cheap paints, and then they use expensive paints for the finish, the final layer. And that also plays into the fact that some artists will use like a single pigment or a single color to lay in their whole painting. Like they go in and they'll use just one color to like draw in everything. And it's usually a pretty economical color. Um, that has like whatever traits they particularly want. But yeah, that's also very common. And another way of like helping with the price of it all. Also, for that particular strategy, it's also just a unifying thing. Like some artists like appreciate that. And sometimes that those colors will shine through if they're not, if they don't, or rather they're artists who don't cover everything up, so that color will shine through a lot of times, which adds dimension to their painting. Oh, we might have a cat friend visiting. We'll see. I just heard one of them. I don't know if they're coming here or not. I messed up on this bun thing. Definitely messed up on this. And this ear. Totally got that off in the wrong place. But I will say if you do like to paint in layers, I do think that acrylics are probably the way to go, which is something that I never understood because everyone says that that's how you should paint in oils, and that never made sense to me. Um, I don't understand why people, I mean, okay, let me rephrase that. I sort of understand why people say that. It's because of the like luminosity that oils have, but oh my God, who has the patience for that? Why would you ever want to, why would you ever want to paint in glazes in oil paints? I don't understand. that's actually how I learned to paint in acrylics, is with glazes. Um, Originally, when I first learned acrylics, that's how I learned. It was you basically glaze everything. And then when I tried painting in acrylics alla prima, I ran into a ton of problems. Also, this is another thing which I think is ironic. Shoot, I forgot to record this. Oh, another thing which I think is just ironic is that, I was afraid of I was afraid of oil paints, because of all the toxicity and all that stuff. The only paints that have ever made me sick were acrylics, and not like, not hyperbole. There was a particular what's it called? There was a particular what's the word I'm looking for? Um, Primer that was acrylic that I used, and it had the AP on the back of it, which is supposed to mean it's safe. I forget what it stands for, but that basically, like it's not toxic, but the fumes that it put out were either toxic or something, and they gave me a horrible headache and made me basically sick for 2 days. Um, yeah, so be careful with paints. Just because, it's watercolor or acrylics doesn't mean there aren't stuff in it that's, not toxic. I tell the story of the lady in my art school who she would shape her watercolor brush. Um, she would rinse it out in water and then wipe it off and then put it in her mouth and use her lips to shape it, um, and her saliva, to shape the brush. Um, and that's not a good way of doing it. Just FYI, not recommended. Also, some of the pigments are not toxic unless you like eat them, if I'm not mistaken. Then they become a little more toxic. This is generally kind of a rule to go by. So there's a lot of things that aren't, you know, generally not considered toxic until you eat them, in which case then they start becoming toxic. So, also something to consider. Okay. Um, There's also, I'm trying to remember who it was. Oh, there's a creator online who recently she started getting into watercolor painting, and she accidentally drank her dirty watercolor uh water. So cautionary tale to everyone. Don't do that. Someone had a really cool recommendation, which was to put something on the cup. I think they suggested rubber bands, but it could be anything that had a very different texture to whatever kind of cups you normally drink out of. That way it would be immediately apparent when you went to grab the cup that it is not your normal cup. I thought that was a pretty good idea, honestly. There's another creator, Lena Danya on YouTube. She's an oil painter. She's really good. I like her. I like her videos too. But she tells the story of how she drank her what's it called? Um, her solvent cup once. She's an oil painter, so she actually drank her solvent cup. Yeah. Apparently, the one thing I can tell you is uh, Cassandra says, "Oh God." Well, so here's the thing. Here, if that ever happens to you, what you do is you go and you read the label on the thing. And the reason I say that is because on the label it says to not induce vomiting. And on a lot of them it says to not induce vomiting. And I'm So it might be on all of them. Maybe there's some that you are supposed to induce vomiting. That's why I say read the label, and you can call, of course, poison control, which she did as well. But here's the counterintuitive thing, which is the vomiting thing. Do not induce vomiting. Um, and it's counterintuitive because most people would think, okay, well, I drank this thing, now I should get it out of me as fast as possible, right? Turns out on a lot of this stuff, the amount of like whatever heavy metals or even lead or anything from the paint is probably going to be minimal because it doesn't stay suspended in the stuff for that long. It falls. Um, you know, and the stuff itself, I guess generally, depending on what it is, but generally your body doesn't actually absorb it. But if you induce vomiting, it can get into your lungs, which um, can cause serious, serious problems. Uh, there's a word for it. Is it aspirate or something like that? I can't remember what it's called, but there's a word for it when it gets into your lungs, and that's even more dangerous than just letting it pass through you. For most of it, that's why I say read the bottle. I'm not. There are so many things out there. I can't tell you everything, but yeah. This says, I drank bleach by accident when I was about 1.5 years old. I puked automatically, and mom rushed me to the hospital. They said it was okay after vomiting, that I was okay after vomiting. That's crazy. Yeah, bleach is, I don't know about bleach. Bleach is a different, I definitely don't know about that. I I did kind of get into an argument once, and I was wrong. And I totally admit this. I got into an argument with someone who was spreading stuff like it seemed like they were spreading rumors about using bleach in water to purify water. And this was around the time when like people were talking about using bleach to purify, to clean things from COVID and stuff like that. And I thought it was, something around that. But No, I don't remember what it was exactly. It was about purifying the water, but apparently, and I'm not an expert at this, so I do not claim, do not, look this up if you want to do it. Don't listen to me. But there is a way to use bleach to purify water. You have to like mix the bleach in with the water and then you have to let it separate. Um, and yeah, there's a way of doing it to a degree, but you have to be very, very careful with it. This says my daughter has been researching prepping stuff. They say you can use a bit. There's a specific measurement. Yeah, there's a specific measurement, and there's stuff to it, but you have to be careful. Um, you know. But yes, there is a way of doing that. But I was unaware of that and called them out, and then we got into an argument, and I lost, and they were right. The reason I remember this is because that was the last argument I lost. Now, I'm kidding, kidding. Uh, yeah, I don't feel like I lose a lot of arguments because I'm not willing. Most of the time, I'm not willing to take a strong stance on a lot of things because I'm willing to already in advance know that there's, a lot of stuff I could be wrong about. So it's like, okay. I saw an interesting video. I should have saved it, but for whatever reason I forgot to. Someone made a video that explains the like the color theory behind how um the blue and gold, the blue and black and the gold and what is it? Gold and blue dress thing, like that optical illusion. They actually made a thing that kind of explains it, and not just explains it, but demonstrates it, which I know a lot of people kind of already know how that works, but it was really cool to see. They actually painted the dress, and then they have it with like two different backgrounds, and they fold part of it over, and it has another background, like the same background, so they can change like the lighting that makes you perceive it one way or the other. I thought it was pretty interesting. Like I realize that it's an old thing at this point, but you know, optical illusions and like color theory and all that, at least for me and for I think a lot of artists don't really, like they don't really age out in any way, you know? Oh, by the way, for anyone who is curious, I started using Miracle Medium from um, Michael Harding. And I know it has its limitations for like how you can use it and everything. But so far, it does make for a really good um, alternative to what's it called? Um, Solvent. If I had more of it, I could use it as a brush cleaner too. So, which would also be very helpful in theory, at least. I have so much Gamsol. I need like I will have Gamsol for the rest of my life, I think, with the amount that I currently have. But the especially with how little I use it. But yeah, the Miracle Medium seems to work really good. I like it. So far, so good. I just need them to start selling it in regular stores. That's really the issue right now. That's the biggest issue I've had with it, honestly, is its availability. But I understand that should improve this year. Mm. Oh, I saw this video on YouTube where this artist was um, he was doing what's it called? What's the word I'm looking for? Like reviewing he was reviewing uh art tutorials that are on like TikTok and Instagram. Oh my God, some of them are horrible. It's crazy that some people have the confidence to go out there and tell people how to do things when they can't do those things. Yeah. I wonder if it's a confidence out of like ignorance or malice. Like I really question that. Like the people who are just like, here's how you do it. And it's like, you don't know how to do this. How are you telling other people how to do this? Is it that they don't know that they don't know or what? I just I can't fathom it. Oh, to have that confidence? Yeah, I don't know. Like I do question it. Like is that confidence born out of like ignorance? Because I will say this is something that I have noticed in a lot of artists. There are a lot of artists who like their confidence level seems to go down as they improve. Um, you know, like when they start out their art journey, they're at a certain point, and as they improve, their confidence level actually goes down. And then eventually there's like a recalibration and they kind of meet back up and then their confidence starts to kind of match their skill again or for the first time maybe. Um, yeah, I don't know. And the funny thing is, I think that I think that sometimes even when that does happen, even when their confidence kind of picks up and matches again, I think a lot of times it only matches in a certain way, not in every way. Sandra says, I am a god. Oh, I know nothing. Oh, I know some stuff. Yeah, that's kind of it. Because, like, I can even say for myself, like, there are times, right? Like, I have confidence in my ability to paint, and I have a ton of confidence in my ability to, um, like, when I just go in on a painting, right? Like, I have the confidence that I will be able to, you know, achieve the look I want. And I have the confidence that even though I mess up something, I'll be able to bring it back and stuff like that. I realize that not everybody has that confidence, but that's a very narrow confidence. That's not like that doesn't mean that I'm like super confident that like, you know, everyone will love my art or that or that I'm, what's it called? Good enough to, teach people or even make the videos I make sometimes, you know what I mean? So they're not the same, it's not the same type of confidence. But yeah, the like I am a god thing where some people just are like, oh yeah, I got this, you just do this, and it's like, okay, yeah, no, not really. Um, Cassandra says, but it's load bearing in terms of momentum. at the easel. That is true. That confidence that you can mess up and fix it, that is true. It's a very, like I said, it's a very specific kind, and it is, I definitely think, well, I don't know. I think in a way it's necessary to develop that confidence because it's confidence in your skills, and it's not, it's confidence in your skills and an honest assessment of where they are currently, because it's not like it's not confidence that I will pull out a painting that is like, better than any other painting I've ever done or better than some other artist or whatever. But it is confidence that in what I do and what I'm capable of, I know I can pull it off. I can pull off this. And so it is definitely very useful and helpful, because otherwise I feel like it would be very, uh, yeah, it would be very challenging to do a lot of things. So I do think it's an important thing to have. I will say this, sometimes these poofy like fabrics and stuff, I don't understand how they function in 3D space. Because I'm just like, I don't get it sometimes. Sometimes it makes sense. Other times it kind of depends on the design. Sometimes, yeah, I'm like, what is happening here? How does this actually function? Her hair makes no sense. It's kind of like Marge hair in the sense of like its texture in the model. It makes no sense. Well, maybe not no sense. I guess it would be like real world curly hair that is kind of stuffed and bundled together, I suppose. The top part makes no sense, but the bundles behind, I'm not sure. Cassandra says, gotta run. Have a good night. No problem. Have a good night. Thank you for stopping by. I appreciate it. Okay, I'm starting to get to the point where like I probably should start using my smaller brush again. I know I've used it already, but only only for like the face and stuff, but I'm going to try and still use my larger brush for some of this. If anyone is curious why either of those things matter, it doesn't really matter, technically speaking. You look at Andrew Kadima as an example, but not the only example. There are some people who just love small brushes and they will do a whole painting with a tiny, tiny brush, which makes no sense to me. But that aside, uh, larger brushes tend to unify the painting and make it more um, cohesive, and also the structure of it, which is a big thing. Um, it can really help with the structure of the different planes and the shadows, and structure of the form. That's what I was trying to get at. Because what happens is, as you use a smaller brush and you go in and you tend to do more detail, and then you take the forms and you start breaking it up into smaller and smaller bits, and that can have a kind of that can kind of break the structure if you're not careful. Because if suddenly your values slip a little and your you know your colors slip a bit, it can result in the form kind of losing shape, even if the outside shape is still perfect. Yeah. Des says, yeah, I'm not going to be able to stay. I have an early dental appointment and I have to go walk to it in the morning, and it's after 11 now. Hey, no problem, Des. I'm probably not going to stream for much longer. I was trying to get this done earlier so I could start stream earlier, but to prepare this, reference, I actually ended up having to do a lot more than I thought I was going to, and it just took longer than I'd wanted it to. So started later than I'd, hoped. But yeah, totally understand. I hope you have a good night and good luck at the dentist tomorrow. See ya. Yeah, see ya. And I've been keeping my streams to like nearly, usually I try to at least hit the 2 hour mark. So I would love to stream more. But I do find it exhausting, um, unfortunately. And so a lot of times I, you know, I end stream and then I have no energy to do anything else, which is not great. It can really affect my, you know, uh, like what I can do sometimes, unfortunately. So I try to keep it to 2 hours so that I don't overdo it. But you know, we'll see. Not that this is the most important thing, but the way that YouTube calculates the viewing or the viewers is really interesting. So they calculate, of course, how many people are watching live, but live viewers don't count towards my view time. Uh, only uh, only people who watch the VOD count towards view time, which is not something that makes a ton of sense to me, but that's how they do it. Like I said, I also need to work on these concept drawings, so I won't be able to, you know, uh, stream that much more tonight, I guess. Already at an hour and 53 minutes. So, yeah. Let's see where we're at right now. Hmm. Okay, and here on just trying to see if anyone, yeah. All right. Uh, I think I'll be wrapping up the stream in just a couple minutes. Just like I said, I keep forgetting what I do. I do need to work on those designs, so I should probably limit my stream time today. I'd hope to get further along with this, although I got pretty far, honestly, and I'm pretty happy with how far and how it's gone so far. Um, Obviously, this is very messy and still needs, a lot of clarification, but yeah, I think it's starting to come together. I mean, the figure is there, the bones are there, everything is clear, like it's a start. Um, so, so yeah, I think I'll be calling it a night though. I know I always try and hit the exact at least 2 hour mark, but whatever. Um, I'll be back Sunday, and I will see. I always say I want to stream more, but Sunday at least, if not anything else. So yeah, I'm gonna say have a good night, everybody. Check out my website. I have prints and originals available, and that's it. I'll be back on Sunday. Have a good one, everyone.